From what I understand, your first impression of the band live wasn't the greatest. What was that? What happened there?
Well,
exactly?
yeah, the first time I saw Nirvana was at the Vogue, and they were Blood Circus was playing. It was a Sunday night. Blood Circus were great, really, and Blood Circus actually played first, and then Nirvana were after. And I just was not like the lighting was dark, and Kurt just kind of stood there frozen, and and it just I just didn't see it. They just weren't in that same. Didn't have that same thing going on that like Mudhoney and Soundgarden and whatnot had.
Is there any particular Nirvana song that is your favorite?
Favorite Nirvana song? I'm really partial to the Love Buzz single, even though it's, a cover. That really kind of just spoke to that first like discovery of them and throwing parties and putting on that Love Buzz, and it was just like, and everyone would go nuts. So, yeah, that first Bleach definitely, School and Blue and all those are
That's so
great.
cool. So I guess that first show that you saw Nirvana, was that before you heard the Love Buzz single, like the studio version of it?
Was that? No, I think I'd heard it, or maybe I'd heard a demo. They had at the local radio station, KCMU, the college station, they had what were called pots, which were these just sort of like almost like a eight-track cartridge that bands could put a song on or two songs, and you would stick this pot in this machine. It's a really old school technology, but they had a couple pots of Nirvana songs there. One was Floyd the Barber, and the other one was Love Buzz. So I remember hearing those on the radio first when I was at my job in a dark room working away one night. And I'm like, yeah, those are kind of different,
Yeah.
Especially that Love Buzz is catchy. So, yeah.
So that was that a local favorite here in the scene?
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
When did you first start to change your opinion about Nirvana?
The next show that I saw them at the University of Washington Hub, and there I was photographing them, and they just, totally blew my mind. So, they had a new drummer, they had Chad, and they had, they just were like performers at that point. I don't know, there was just this 6 months time that they just, maybe it was the venue or the new songs or whatever, but yeah, they were incredible.
So when did you guys first start to notice that Nirvana, by Teen Spirit, obviously they had blown up, but what were the first signs that they looked like they were going to become, a big band?
It just, of all the bands, it seemed kind of inevitable. And then Sonic Youth, introduced them to Geffen, and it was like, oh, this big signing with Geffen is like, oh, wow, they're going to sell 100,000 records, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
You just can't predict that kind of stuff. So it just either happens or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And Kurt just had that right sense of personality to kind of represent the whole umbrella of grunge, I think, in a way, the look and you just couldn't really take a bad photograph of the guy, and he had that, just tapped into that with his own angst, tapped into the sort of the angst of the teenage nation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you ever talk to any of the grunge bands about their views on electronic music and what they thought about it?
Electronic music and grunge. Yeah, I was actually heavily into electronic music. It kind of came through my love of rap from the early 80s onward. So, but it wasn't among the core musicians and fans of the scene. It wasn't received very fondly. It was like, oh, you just push some buttons. That's not really playing music, blah, blah, blah. And I think for most of those people, that view is, I'm sure, changed. And the interesting thing is that like Mark Arm and I from Mudhoney, we were sitting around listening to Brian Eno, in the early 80s. We always listened to a lot of different kind of music. There are a few of us that were always into. Bruce Pavitt was one. He was a huge reggae head. I was a huge reggae head. And so we always explored different kinds of music. But some of some of the more like tried and true, like especially in the garage rock kind of scene, just didn't want to have anything to do with electronic. I listen to so many different kinds of music. I listen to very little rock and roll these days, actually. So it is mostly what I listen to is electronic or krautrock from back in the 70s and 80s. Neoclassical I've been listening to a lot of, and just straight up classical. Jazz, I listen to a lot of classic jazz. So I become a bit of a hi-fi enthusiast. So you sort of also start, wow, sound, like it's amazing. It's not just all about angst and energy and stuff. There's actually really wonderful sounds that make your head go all wonky. So
then you just mentioned, life's not all about angst and that sort of thing. If Nirvana, let's say, hadn't, this is speculation, but if Nirvana hadn't ended, do you think they would have gone in a different direction eventually musically?
I mean, I think they would have ended at some point, and probably all gone on their different ways, who knows? I mean, that's just it could be Kurt Cobain could have rediscovered krautrock as well and making motor rhythms these days, like Bitchin' Bajas or whoever, long instrumental. So who knows what he could have ended up doing? I mean, or he could still be just playing, straight up punk garage kind of melodic stuff that he was doing.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe for more. All the videos on this channel are original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and editing all the videos together. So if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Lots more to come.